Um, there we go. Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Aaron, your personal driver, and I got a special treat for you today. I have a PhD student from Cornell University with me. You can call him Oliver.
Hello.
That's all of us do. Go ahead and say hi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Oliver, and as Aaron mentioned, I'm a PhD student in the Department of Communication at Cornell University. I'm so happy to be interviewed by Aaron. Yeah.
Yep. So we actually worked together earlier. He did an interview for me. And if you look into the description box below, what I'll do is I'll leave his contact information. So if you're a driver or a YouTuber, you can ask him questions, and he'll interview you and do a part of the study. Is that a correct thing to say?
Yeah. I'm right now recruiting. So I think we'll also touch on this issue a little bit later. I'm also studying Uber drivers right now. So I'm recruiting and looking for drivers to be my interviewee. So if you're interested in being my participant, just leave the contact or you can just email me and then we can schedule a Skype or phone interview.
Okay, yeah, and I'll be sure to put that down there in the description below when I get the chance for that.
Yeah.
So the first question is, how long have you been doing this type of study?
So if just about Uber,
Yeah,
I have
just
started doing that
mine.
maybe like last year. The first study I did with my advisor is like more like an analysis of the driver online forum, and we try to understand like how Uber drivers use mobile technology, especially in the context where they share peer-to-peer knowledge about Uber. So we look into the forum and then to see how people talk about strategies for getting a good rating, and also like their frustration about the rating system, the navigation system, and we try to understand that.
So when you mean you're trying to understand that, what exactly do you mean that you're trying to do? Like, you want to know how drivers communicate on an online sense for training, or just like what's the difference between Uber drivers, I guess, and any other online form of communication that's interesting to you?
Right. I think our like initial starting point is that like we know that like Uber drivers is not, I mean, it's kind of like part of the rise of the non-standard employment. Like because in over the last decade, there has been a skyrocketing growth in non-standard employment and also the on-demand platform economy. And one of the like the distinctive feature of that kind of employment is like Uber drivers are not classified as the employees of Uber. I mean, to a certain extent, they do not receive like job training, and they kind of like regarded as like independent contractors. So we want to understand how they work and how they learn to work. And in the initial stage, we thought that like it may be interesting to see in that kind of like online community when they talk about Uber and also their work, and then what would be the advice they give to the peers. And that's like why we try to study online forum at the very beginning. But like the major question we want to understand is how Uber drivers use mobile technology, because mobile technology is like the tool that they have to use in order to work. But you know, like Uber app have different kinds of function, and people don't use it in the way that Uber want them to use in a certain extent.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. So what I've noticed is like customers want one thing at the top, right? They want to go the farthest distance for the cheapest amount of money.
Right.
Drivers are down here, they want something different. They want the most amount of money to go the shortest distance. And then Uber just wants volume. So I totally agree with that. Uber wants you to just log in, take every single trip, no matter how far it is or what the price is or anything like that.
Right,
So
right.
I think it's interesting that you and I have come to like basically the same conclusion on that. I just have been doing it by working in Uber, and you have done it through your studies, I guess. Or is that a correct assumption that I'm making?
Yeah, I think one of our assumption or our findings is that like people don't always use the technology the company want them to use as the same way the company want them to use. And I think you're definitely right that like the consumer, the Uber, and also the drivers have different interests. like for drivers, you want to like maximize your earnings, but like for customer, you want to get like a cheap ride. And for Uber, maybe just maximize their earning, but not concerned about like the labor conditions of Uber drivers. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
So I'm gonna take a break real quick. So we have about 15 people in the chat now, which means a lot of people have just joined. When we started, there's only 4. So welcome everybody. I'm interviewing a PhD student at Cornell University who is doing a study on drivers and communication in the gig economy world, and he's focusing on Uber drivers. At the end of this, in the description below, if you're curious, I'll put his contact information in there so that you can contact him directly if you'd like to be part of the study. Also, if you have any questions about this study or in general his findings, go ahead and write it in the live chat. And I have the live chat over here off screen, and I'll ask him directly if you have any appropriate questions. Do you want to just really quick reintroduce yourself? Because we have about 10 more additional people that weren't here at the beginning.
Sure, definitely. So hi, everyone. I'm Oliver. I'm a PhD student in the Department of Communication at Cornell University. And I'm doing a study on Uber drivers, specifically focused on how they interact with the riders and also how they use mobile technologies to make work-related decisions.
Yeah, so that's awesome. So my question is, what do you think your research is going to do? Or what are you trying to improve a certain area? Just trying to do research for the sake of research? Do you have any idea what we're going to go after the research is actually done? That sort of thing?
Right. I think there are several. I think you're asking a very important question that is like, so right, I'm doing research, but why is that research important, like no matter to Uber drivers or to even to the academic community? So I think one of there's several intended contributions as I think through the research process. So first is like to understand the role of technology in the non-standard employment, or as you said, like gig economy. So because the platform relies on technology to monitor and manage Uber drivers' work, and we want to understand like so how can people use the technology for their own purpose? So technology in that sense is not just about like workplace control, but also about how drivers can utilize the benefits of technology to maximize their earnings or even for making work-related decisions. So this is like the first thing. The second thing is more like we want to understand. So after we understand like the practices and experiences of Uber drivers, then that may be something that the platform have to concern or have to think about, like how they should be regulated. Because if one of the things that we found is like Uber drivers may not be satisfied with the system. They feel that like the system cannot really help them to make work-related decisions to a certain extent, or they're frustrated about the system. So I guess a further question would be if we know that the technology or the platform in a certain way cannot really satisfy drivers' need, and then how, and also to a certain extent may threaten drivers' interests, how should we regulate that kind of platform if this is kind of like imagined it to be the future of the workplace? Does that make sense? Yeah.
No, I hear you. So what we kind of noticed is the drivers who are doing this are unhappy with the way they're being treated. But so that the next step after the research is what do you do, or what policies you can implement to like rectify that, right? So that the drivers feel treated fairly, and going forward, I guess help maybe create more equity. I think that's a really important issue right now, because I don't know how closely you follow rideshare news, but recently MIT just released a study in conjunction with this guy named Harry. He runs the blog, the Rideshare Guy, and he did a survey, and those two combined found out that drivers are making $3.37 median per hour wages in some states. So are you following any of those other studies that are going on, or?
I think it's interesting that like I know Uber just released a response to that study. They're kind of like criticizing the methodology used by the researchers at MIT are not accurate. So they're trying to argue that like Uber drivers actually earn much more than the surveys show. So I think you're mentioning right, there are many studies going on, and I'm following the study, right? Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, one question from the chat real quick is from Michael Uribe. He says, do you think there will be a long-term effect on drivers who drive a lot, like say more than 8 hours or something like that? Or have you come across anything in dealing with length of schedule or anything like that?
Right. I think it's on there at least two things I could think of. Like first, I know Uber just released the policy that like kind of regulate that drivers shouldn't drive for 12 hours or longer, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So I think yeah, right. First there could be some I don't have findings on hand, but I could think of another interesting thing would be like how Uber affect our scheduling. So if you drive for a long time, that also means you don't have much time for your own personal life. You have to overwork. I mean, that's one thing. But the other thing is like how Uber try to like I don't know like
Yelling, I apologize.
no. Yeah, try to set our schedule.
Yeah, because I remember one of the questions you asked me in the study had to do with like work-life balance.
Right.
So a question here from Timothy is this a study that you've gotten like a grant for, you're getting paid for, or is this part of like a dissertation or part of your school study?
It's should be part of my dissertation. I'm not getting any money from the university or from any companies to do the research. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're just out there grinding like us, huh? Trying to make a living.
Right. Yeah.
So I guess an important question for me personally would be, do you use any gig economy apps yourself? Or do you plan to in the future for your own research? Or just a way to make, some students like to do it on the side to make tuition money. Or do you have any experience with it?
I use Uber personally, but I'm not a driver. I use it as a customer, but I did learn a lot from the like because as I mentioned, we read through the pros on the online forum. One thing that I learned as a customer is always giving drivers 5-star rating.
Yeah. Yeah. Always give them a rating, always give them a tip.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, and so then I guess the next question I have after that would be, in this process, because like I know a lot of times when you're studying and researching, you start at A trying to get to B,
right.
But then you find interesting tangents like, oh, I didn't realize this, so maybe we could do that next time. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Have you found anything in your research that you found interesting, maybe that doesn't have to do specifically with communication, but might be worth a follow-up or something?
I guess one thing that I find very interesting is like how drivers interpret riders' rating. Because like I feel like the whole discussion we have, no matter in the media or in the research right now, we focus very much on how riders evaluate drivers' performance. But at the same time, I mean it's maybe not represent all the drivers, but I feel like some people on the forum I study also mentioned that they actually can use the ratings or riders' performance are also accountable if they could use the rating system properly. So I think this is the most interesting thing I came across.
So if you could start, if you're going to branch off into a different study, you'd study on how drivers rate their passengers, how that affects them if they pick them up, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think this is very interesting because like Uber never mentioned that you could choose a rider based on someone rating, but in effect, like your own rating actually reflects something like driver's performance, at least from the rider's perspective. So how do drivers like reinterpret that situation? Yeah,
that's that would be a fascinating study too, because it is true that some drivers, especially veteran drivers and higher rated drivers, will just not pick up somebody with a low rating.
Right.
And so I guess it's always been like a normalized for me because that's how it's always been. But I guess rating your customer and not taking business from a lower rated customer is kind of almost revolutionary. It's different. Like Starbucks doesn't rate people who buy coffee, and they don't reject people who don't buy coffee, right?
Right. That's right.
I didn't think about it like that, but that's a good point. Is there what can we do as a community to help you with your studies? Like, what other than contacting you, is there anything else we can do to help you along the process?
So I guess I'm kind of thinking that because at the very beginning, I was looking on the post on the online forum, and we just thought that it would be interesting to talk to people. And yeah, right now I'm looking for participants, so the most helpful way is to contact me. But I think another way is also like as a driver, I also feel like it's important to because I was thinking of like how drivers learn to be a driver. So like right now you have the YouTube channel. I came across the online forum, different social media platforms, and also different kinds of bloggers. So I think it's not to helping me, but also like maybe to help to perform your work, or to help if you find that like the system is not the way you want to do, you could also get resources or information to know how to use the system. I mean, I know it's not just about the standard knowledge that Uber teach you, but also like the way that like drivers as a community, how they could work together and then to use the system. I guess, yeah.
So I think I understand already what you said, what you found, but would you say that most drivers train or learn how to do this, like get their training not from the platforms like Uber, Postmates, Lyft stuff, but from YouTubers, Facebook, that kind of stuff? Is that what you're finding? I know you haven't completed the study yet, so I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but
I guess I wouldn't make that claim, but I think so. It's difficult to say like people just learn something from a specific actor or from a specific platform. So I think on the one hand, drivers do learn something from the platform, because like Uber keeps sending you email and then change the system. You have to learn how to do that by using the system. But on the other hand, I think not everyone would watch the YouTube channel or read the posts on online forum, but there are definitely some people watching YouTube channels trying to form a community or formulate their own workplace culture. This is what I guess I would say is like some people are trying to do that, and it seems that it shows some alternative other than what Uber promised the drivers what they could do, but like the drivers can also make their vision of using a system. Yeah, does that make sense?
yeah, that makes sense. So I guess, so do you, I don't know, like I said, I'm not doing the study, but do you think that people who do go and do YouTube or forums on Facebook or whatever are at more of an advantage than drivers who don't, simply because there's no training or community otherwise? Like, you can't go to Uber and learn how to do the app. They don't teach you anything like that.
I because I don't have any results on that, but I could think of like a related concept or related work on that. Because like some people would talk about like digital divide. So talking about if people have more digital skills, they may be benefit more from the technology. So it's possible that like when people or when an Uber driver know more about the technology, they may get benefit from that. But we don't have much evidence on that issue. I would say it's possible.
Yeah. Okay. Well, like I said, I didn't know exactly what you were studying or whatever. So a question from the chat is, do you think that going forward that maybe this is something you're going to teach when you get your PhD? I don't know. There'll be some kind of Uber-like college course. Rideshare 2K asked that. Or like gig economy class or something. Do you think there can be an academic after the academic research that it would benefit to teach people this stuff?
I don't know. I mean, that's a very interesting question, because this is also what I find fascinating during my research process. Because I mean, at the very beginning, I didn't think like someone would teach you how to be an Uber driver. But in fact, like there are other people providing consulting services or like providing courses to drivers. And then, I mean, they're definitely not like very academic in the sense that they're not in a class in the university. But I would say like if in the future, I mean, this is also what educators are struggling right now, I think, because like right now we have different kinds of like thinking about what our workplace would be in the future. So how, I guess the bigger question is like, how should university or how should educators um, adapt their training in order to help people to like adapt to the new economy? I guess this is the bigger question, but I don't know. I don't have a definite answer on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to consider anything like a ride along, like get an Uber driver in your area and sit shotgun or something like that, or during the research process, or is this just going to be interviews, like I guess standard interview like you gave me?
Right. I guess. Right.
Ben from the chat asked that. That's why I was asking you.
Yeah. I guess I would mainly do the interview partly because I don't have a driver license. This is, I don't know. Yeah, so it's difficult for me to be an Uber driver to do research, but
No,
yeah.
no, I mean like a ride along with an Uber driver, like get in the car with one and then, you know what I'm saying? Like not like a consultant, but like, you know.
Right, right. I get that. But I mean, this is actually kind of my original plan. But you know, like the university policy has many regulation on how you can do research.
Oh, okay.
That also related to the privacy of other riders. So I couldn't do that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's going to be anything, or I guess what, I don't know how to ask the question, so maybe you can help me ask it to yourself. But
Yeah.
what do you think, like, this gig economy, like technology based employment, however you're going to call it, is going to affect long term? In Are we all going to do this? Like, is Walmart going to hire like this, or do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Do you see a trend at all anywhere?
I think at least like from the policymakers' perspective, because you know that like the OECD or other like international organization, they're actually seeing this as a trend. I mean, they're not saying that like it must be the trend, but like it seems that more and more companies try to outsource labor to that kind of technology, because it can definitely help the corporations to minimize their labor costs. So it's, on the one hand, it seems to be the future of the workplace, at least like in the public or popular discourse. But I guess it really depends on how people react to that. Because like not everyone wants to be an independent contractor. Because like it also means that you lack labor protection, and also you don't have like a strong income security. So I guess it really depends. I mean, even this is the future. There are multiple ways of regulating that kind of platform. So maybe this is the future, but not we have much more regulation on that, and then maybe we have like much more labor protection, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so I'm going to try to wrap it up here so we can keep this to be about a half an hour. But you said you work in the communications department, correct? That's where your field of study is?
Right.
So when I heard that, I was actually surprised. I thought you would be, getting like in somewhere like a business school or something like that. So why is the communication discipline looking into business practice of Uber? I know that we're communicating, but is there any other reason specifically?
Right. I think our major focus, or at least my major focus, is on the technology. So we are interested in how, because like it's not just about face-to-face communication, but also about how people use technology to communicate with other people. And so like that kind of platform, like Uber, Airbnb, or platform rely heavily on technology. So we are kind of interested in like if technology is an important tool in this context, how people would use that, and how would that affect our understanding of the interaction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess kind of. It just I guess maybe it's my ignorance because I didn't. When I hear communication, I think someone going into radio, someone going into like news. But I don't know what a communication PhD would study. So I guess it's kind of like my ignorance on that. But that makes perfect sense. What you're saying. So Uber driver Todd just gave me a super chat, but he didn't include a question. So Todd, if you want me to ask a specific question with that Uber super chat, go ahead and let me know. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. Usually when they donate, they ask a question. So if you want to ask that again, Todd, go ahead. I'll just type it in the chat. Is there anything specifically that you would like to ask us as a community right now? I guess the last question I'll give to you in reverse.
Right. I guess the major question I want to ask is like, what motivate people to watch the YouTube channel or like get information online, and how do you come across like different kinds of channel and also like forums about ride sharing and Uber? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to know why people want to watch YouTube because I have a financial incentive to figure that out. So if you ever figure that out, let me know.
Yeah.
But I think just from what I've heard from my own community that I have here on my YouTube channel, is that they hear about it from other drivers. So they're in the parking lot, in the queue waiting for a ride. They're smoking in groups or whatever it is, and they're like, "Hey, so and so's YouTube channel really helped me out. Let me check it out." That's where I think they get introduced to it. Is that what you were trying to ask when you were asking that?
Right. Or I think that's an interesting part that, like, I mean, on the one hand, Uber drivers are considered as independent contractor. They don't have like a large organization to help them to communicate with each other. But on the other hand, like the YouTube channel or the forums, like a kind of workplace culture, like letting people from individual to be connected with each other, forming a community. So that's the interested in. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that it's really funny.
Yeah.
If you think about it logically, I should never have a YouTube channel where I share driver tips with other drivers because essentially every other driver is competition to me. So I'm sharing trade secrets for free, basically, right? So it's almost like a Safeway and Kroger get together and they're like, "Hey, let me tell you all my secrets to grocery." You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And at the same time, you have people organizing strikes, and like in Seattle, they're organizing a union up there. So it seems it's like a weird contradiction. So I understand where like that might be interesting to look into too. Is
right.
why would an Uber driver even help another Uber driver?
Right.
Just let him lose money, and so that you can take all the money yourself. So I hear what you're saying there.
Right.
So is that you got anything else? I'll give the last word to you so you can tell them how to contact you, and I'll put that information into the description below too, guys. So if you want to be part of this study, you can contact Oliver.
Right. So as Aaron mentioned, I am looking for participants to be my interviewee. So if you're a current or former Uber driver, and if you're interested in talking about how you interact with riders and how you use the mobile technologies, please contact me. And then I think Aaron will post my email address in the description, and then just email me, and then an interview wouldn't last long. It's just like take maybe 15 to 20 minutes. So if you're interested in that, please do email me. I want to talk to people.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, you go by Oliver, right? But if you're using the email, the name Oliver isn't on the email. That's just what he likes to be called. So don't be confused.
Right.
Those of you who are watching live, I posted the email in the chat. I will also, when this uploads to my YouTube channel, include it in the description below, guys.
Yeah.
So
sure.
if anyone in the chat has any questions, now's your last chance. I'll go ahead and open up to them if they want to say anything. But I guess good luck, man. I don't know what it's like to get a PhD. How far are you before you even get your degree?
Oh, it's just my second year right now, so I still have to like 3 more years, I guess.
And what do you do with the communications PhD? Are you planning to be a professor?
Yeah, I'm. Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
You're gonna be the first gig economy professor at Cornell.
Oh no, there are many people studying that, but yeah.
All right, man. Well, I want to thank you for coming on. Thank everyone for listening, and have a good Sunday. And definitely looking for. I know it takes a couple years for these studies to come out, but definitely update us whenever you need to. All right.
Yep, sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Oliver. Bye.
Bye.